The new health age, the future of healthcare in America, because if we want to remain a great nation, there's two fundamental things we have to do. We have to better educate our youth, and we have to become healthier. Regardless of anything else we do, if we don't do those two things, we will not remain a great nation. Period, end of story, which is why I've gone from kind of a high-level global in my first book and the subsequent books I'm writing to deal with these two issues. When Jonathan Fleece, my co-author, and I were writing this book, he, by the way, is one of the foremost healthcare attorneys in the United States, and we advise companies on this. We started getting feedback. You got to get this book out. You got to get this book out before anybody else because, and here's the point, the conversation about healthcare in the United States of America is driven by three things: fear, ignorance, and politics. And whenever a conversation is driven by fear, ignorance, and politics, it's a stupid conversation. And it's not a conversation truly about the future or about the well-being of the United States of America. So we are now entering the new health age in the United States of America and around the world. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context. So again, I'm a futurist, which is to be a catalyst to get you to think about the future. I ask one thing, that you just let me lift you up out of the context of your day-to-day, of the conversation you just had out there, of your experience of getting in here. So we are in a new century, we're in a new age, and we're in a new decade. That's a pretty interesting alignment. It's not just like, oh, there's a lot of change or a bill was passed, so we have to do something differently. It is one of the most historically transformative times in human history. In a 50-year period, everything is going to change from 1975 to 2025, and we are fortunate enough to be alive in that. And there's only a couple since in the last 2,000 years. Okay, so now we move to healthcare. Remember the three ages. So this is the agricultural age, and I just did highlights. This is all in my book. I'm trying to give you, by the way, a real fast-paced, high-speed overview of the future of healthcare in America today. Because you're all going to get the book to read, and we want to leave a lot of time for questions. So this is just kind of a high level. This is just selected, right? Now, 4,500 years ago was the first mention in human history of medicine. Remember, we've been around for 150,000 years? So only in the last 3% of modern man's time on the planet has there been anything remotely called medicine. Pretty interesting. Then, if you look at the history of medicine in the industrial and information age from the 1860s to the present. 150 years. 1/10 of 1% of the time modern man has been on this planet. So what everybody in this room thinks of as modern medicine is 1/10 of 1% of our species' latest iteration on this planet. We are in a global, competitive, economic landscape. So that question about, are we going to remain a great country, is, because we're falling behind, we can't compete. A lot of CEOs of companies like this fully saw that the reason that PPACA came into being now is because we Americans and our companies, even though you may think multinationals are big, bad, and ugly and control the purse strings, and to some degree they do, but the fact of the matter is that America's corporations have a 5 to 20% drag coefficient holding them back from being competitive in the global marketplace because we are the only developed country in the world that does not have health care. So American companies can't compete. That's why General Motors had to go through Chapter 11. It couldn't compete with Japan. It couldn't compete with the emerging automotive powers in China because they had to pay $1,800 a vehicle for healthcare costs. So there's no surprise why this happened, because in the global economy, America is losing its competitive edge because of this issue. Now, pre-PACA, okay, the name of healthcare. Jonathan and I believe that healthcare, by 2020, you can look back on healthcare as pre-PPACA and post-PPACA. That's simple. Now, is that bill going to get changed? Yes. Is that bill going to get turned down? Probably not. Even if it gets rejected by the Supreme Court, the changes I'm about ready to suggest to you are already inevitably in place. 17.4%, rounded up to 18%, of all the GDP in the United States is healthcare costs. Depending on who you believe, 2015, 2016 to 2019, it becomes 20% if moving on the same trajectory it is today. So the way I say it is that all of the technological innovations, connectivity, productivity, communications, transformations we've accepted in 80% of our economy is now just coming to the 20%. Right? If you were to go, anybody bank, say pick Bank of America. Somebody must be Bank of America. Raise your hand. Anybody? Okay. What if you went into the bank, the branch that you usually didn't bank in, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, here's a clipboard. We have to fill out all your information. What? You would walk out of you'd walk out and go, this is prehistoric. Oh, you walk into a doctor's office. Oh, sure, I'll fill out the clipboard, right? So think of it that way. Everything that you now accept, oh, you'll be able to find out who has the best rates of recovery. Everybody's got part of it. But we came down to 9 dynamic flows that are already coursing through the marketplace and everything in the world of healthcare. Okay? These are 9 dynamic flows that are and will reshape healthcare in the new health age. They are grouped into 3 categories: how we think about healthcare, how we deliver healthcare, and the economics of healthcare. Okay? And this is where, if you take the time, and I'm sorry to be pedantic about the book, but you do have a competitive advantage here because you're working with this company who has the vision of the future as I see it to be. And these are 9 things that if you read this, you're going to be some of the first 350 people on the planet to digest this stuff. Okay? So let's take a look at it. How we think about it, okay? First of all, we're going from sickness to wellness. Hey, doesn't that sound pretty good based on everything you've heard this morning? In other words, most Americans think of healthcare as, ooh, I get sick, I got to go see a doctor. You know, it's about sickness. We think about doctors when we're not well. We think about hospitals when something bad happens. No longer. It's about wellness. How well are you? Pretty obvious there. Ignorance to awareness and understanding. There was a poll that came out about 2 months ago, front page USA Today. 84% of Americans said they thought they led a healthy lifestyle. 34% are overweight, are obese, and 64% are clinically overweight. What's the disconnect? Lack of understanding, lack of awareness. So it's a matter of education. Just think about that. 84% of Americans said, oh, I live a healthy lifestyle, and yet 1/3 of adults are obese. It's kind of a disconnect there. Supplier-driven to payer-driven. Right now, if you're a doctor or you're a practitioner in healthcare, there are 18,000 codes in the United States of America that you can punch in to get paid. They're all called procedures. Recent thing the other day about the CAT scans or the cervical cancer, because doctors get paid by doing procedures. Hospitals get paid by doing procedures. That is all going to change. That is a procedure-driven, it's going to become a capitated vision, which in other words, you're going to negotiate how much it costs per year for every one of you to have your health care taken care of, and that's it. So for example, today, it costs $20,000 to $40,000 to have an open heart surgery in a major medical hospital in the United States. If you were to get a bad infection, that's another $100,000. Hospital generates more revenue from their mistakes than they do from not making a mistake. That's gone. Oh, okay, hospital, we will give you $35,000 for every open heart surgery you perform. You get an infection, out of your pocket, not mine. It's going to move to the payer. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit more in terms of how that manifests itself structurally. How we deliver it. First of all, treatment and prevention. Anybody remember that phrase that mom told you when she wanted you to eat an apple? What? Something like ounce of prevention, pound of cure? Right? So we're going to the ounce of prevention model here. Common sense. Treatment and prevention. It's not how many procedures I get paid for, it's how healthy I keep you. Okay? Here's isolation to integration. Here's where you start kicking it. Everybody is isolated. That's why the clipboard, nothing is connected. Remember, 80-20. We expect everything to be found, to be sourced, to be known, to be contacted. There's time, difference, or place limiting human communication. So isolation, everything gets integrated. The whole medical landscape gets integrated. Data-driven technology, connectivity. What do people do? Non-efficient to efficient. Healthcare is the most non-efficient, not inefficient, non-efficient industry in the United States of America, and it reps 17.4%. Right? Case management, to help you. Give you a personal trainer. Get you on a regimen, okay? Well, I don't know if I want to do that. You know, America is free choice. I don't have to do that. Okay, that's right. We'll give you $1,000 and help keep you alive. Or you can stay obese and pay $150 more a month. Your call. That's where it's going. That's what I mean by carrot and stick. That is going to happen real fast, okay? Reduce absenteeism, right? If you're not well, you can't come to work. There's statistics out there, literally tens of billions of dollars lost in productivity because of absenteeism. So you increase productivity. And what if you come to work but you're in chronic pain? What if you come to work but you're worried about your sick kid at home? What if you come into work but you're worried about your dad who has Alzheimer's? You're distracted from the workplace. So all of this affects its hidden healthcare costs that aren't even measured. What healthcare institutions and practitioners need to do in the new health age? We must change our perspectives and open our minds to new ideas, create strong and effective leaders and management within our organizations, develop a health information technology plan and execute that plan. Healthcare providers must integrate. This is your business plan. So I can see it, you know, from my point of view. Okay? You've got to sell new ideas. This is the leadership. You've got to develop a health information technology plan and execute that. And healthcare providers must integrate. It's all about data integration. Choose between positive or negative thinking. That's really key. Because this is inevitable. So you can, you know, if you know it's going to be 100 degrees in Scottsdale today, you can be really negative about it, or you can be positive about it, but whether you're positive or negative about it, it's going to be 100 degrees, so why not be positive about it? What I'm saying to you is all of this stuff is going to happen. So the race to a healthy America, I'm a patriot. Okay, I believe in the United States of America, whether it was World War II, or the Cold War, or the Civil War, or AIDS, or whatever it was. We as a country rose to the challenge and won. Okay, so we've come up with this new health age version of the space. It's called the Race to a Healthy America. We need leadership. We're going to get corporate America involved, educational institutions involved,